Dr. Sarah Chen stood at the observatory's main window, her coffee growing cold in her forgotten grip. The object that had appeared in lunar orbit 12 hours ago defied everything she thought she knew about spacecraft design. It looked like a massive crystalline snowflake, its faceted surfaces refracting sunlight into prismatic displays that made Earth's most advanced satellites look like children's toys. "Tell me again what they're saying," she asked, not taking her eyes off the vessel. Colonel Marcus Rodriguez pulled up the translated message on his tablet. "They keep broadcasting the same thing. We seek sanctuary. We bring knowledge. We mean no harm." Then there's a massive data packet that our computers are still processing. Looks like star charts, mathematical proofs, and something our physicists are calling impossible engineering. Sarah finally turned away from the window. The emergency conference room at NASA's Lunar Gateway Station was packed with the world's hastily assembled first contact team. Military officers, diplomats, scientists, and linguists all trying to make sense of what had just landed in humanity's backyard. "And we're sure they're running from something?" she asked. Rodriguez nodded grimly. The long-range telescopes picked up evidence of weapons fire on their hull. Whatever they're fleeing, it left scars even their advanced technology couldn't fully repair. The room's main screen lit up with a new transmission. The crystalline beings, the Zrillions, as they called themselves, appeared as intricate lattices of light and geometric patterns. Their method of communication was as unique as their appearance. Complex harmonics that made Earth's most advanced quantum computers struggle to keep up with translation. "We understand your hesitation." The Zrillion representative's translated voice filled the room. "We are pursued by those who fear difference, who demand uniformity. The Dominion Empire believes their way is the only way. We chose to flee rather than submit. Your species interests us. You are young, by our standards, yet you create art that serves no practical purpose. You write music that follows no logical pattern. You dream impossible dreams and then make them real. We believe you might understand us, where others could not." Sarah exchanged glances with Rodriguez. "They're refugees," she said softly. "Advanced enough to cross galaxies, but they're running from something even stronger." "Dr. Chen," Rodriguez replied, "I'm more interested in why they chose us. We're barely into our solar system. We're divided, messy. Half our planet still argues about climate change. Why not go to someone more advanced?" The answer came from the Zrillion transmission, as if they'd been listening. "We have observed many species. Most advanced civilizations follow paths of pure logic, of absolute efficiency. But you put gardens on your warships. You send music into space on golden disks. Your mathematics includes the golden ratio because you find it beautiful. You are inefficient, illogical, and wonderfully alive." Sarah stepped closer to the screen, studying the shifting patterns of light that comprised the Zrillion form. "You're not just running from the Dominion's weapons, are you? You're running from their conformity." The Zrillion patterns pulsed in what the computers translated as agreement. They would have us be perfect, uniform, predictable. They do not understand that true advancement comes from embracing chaos as well as order. We believe humanity does. Rodriguez cleared his throat. "Ma'am, we're getting reports from all major observatories. Multiple objects just appeared at the edge of the solar system. Based on the Zrillion data, it's the Dominion." Sarah felt her heart race but kept her voice steady. "How long do we have?" "At their current speed, maybe 72 hours. She turned back to the screen. "You're asking us to fight an empire we didn't know existed until today, to protect refugees we just met, all because you like our art." The Zrillion's response came with a harmonic that the computers translated as both amusement and determination. "No, Dr. Chen. We are asking to fight alongside you. We bring knowledge of physics your species has not yet discovered. You have creativity we lost millennia ago. Apart, we are vulnerable. Together, well, The Dominion has never encountered anything like human imagination combined with Zrillion precision. Sarah looked around the room, at the faces of Earth's hastily assembled first contact team. She saw fear there, yes, but also something else. Curiosity, determination, and that uniquely human desire to prove everyone wrong about their limitations. "Colonel," she said, "please inform all Earth governments that we need every artist, engineer, and dreamer they can spare, and tell them to hurry." She turned back to the screen. "You say we put gardens on warships. Let's show the Dominion what happens when we really decide to get creative." The Zrillion patterns shifted into what could only be described as anticipation. Humanity's first interstellar war would begin in 72 hours, and their allies were ancient crystalline beings who appreciated Earth's poetry. It was exactly the kind of beautiful absurdity that humans seemed to specialize in. As emergency alerts began blaring across Earth, Sarah couldn't help but smile. The Dominion Empire was about to learn a very important lesson about underestimating species that dared to be different. "That's not supposed to be possible," Dr. James Patel muttered, watching the holographic display where Zrillion energy patterns merged with human-designed quantum circuits. The hybrid technology pulsed with colors that shouldn't exist in normal spacetime. Beside him, the Zrillion scientist, whose name translated roughly to "pattern that bridges gaps," but whom everyone called Bridge, rippled with what humans had learned to recognize as excitement. Precisely. Bridge's harmonics hummed through the translator. "By your physics, it should fail. By our physics, it should shatter." Instead, the crystalline being gestured at the successful fusion of their technologies. It had been 60 hours since first contact, and the Lunar Gateway Station had transformed into humanity's most advanced research facility. Every lab, hangar, and storage room now housed joint human-Zrillion teams working frantically to prepare for the Dominion's arrival. "Bridge," James said slowly, "did you expect this to work? Actually, more importantly, did you know it might explode?" The Zrillion's patterns shifted into what James had started calling their laughing lights configuration. "If we only attempted what we were certain would succeed, we would never have fled the Dominion. Your species taught us that uncertainty can be exciting." A loud whoop from across the lab interrupted them. Dr. Maya Santos, Earth's leading quantum physicist, was practically dancing around her workstation. "You all need to see this," she called out. James and Bridge moved to her station, where a seemingly impossible simulation played out. Maya's hands flew over the controls, her dark eyes bright with discovery. "We've been thinking about Zrillion crystals all wrong. They're not just technology, they're art. Their lattice patterns follow the same mathematics as Bach's compositions." Bridge's entire form brightened. "You recognize the harmony. For millennia, we thought our crystalline patterns were purely functional. Then we intercepted your world's music broadcasts. The mathematical similarities were revolutionary." James watched the simulation, understanding dawning. "You're saying we can use music theory to enhance your technology. That's why you were so interested in human art. It's not just cultural, it's practical magic." Maya finished. "The Dominion thinks in straight lines, pure efficiency, but the universe itself is full of spirals, rhythms, harmonies. We just need to." The station's alert system blared to life, cutting her off. Colonel Rodriguez's voice filled the lab. "They're here. Dominion fleet just dropped out of FTL at Jupiter's orbit. All research teams report to your designated stations. This is not a drill." James felt his heart rate spike, but years of high-pressure lab work kept his hands steady as he began implementing emergency protocols. Around him, humans and Zrillions moved with practiced precision, the result of endless drills over the past 2 days. "Bridge," he called out, "what are we looking at? How many ships?" The Zrillion's patterns turned somber. "Standard Dominion invasion fleet, 300 capital ships, over 1,000 support vessels. They will expect us to surrender immediately." Maya was already uploading their latest findings to the defense network. Well, they're about to learn that humans don't read their expectation memos. James, remember that music theory breakthrough? He nodded, following her train of thought. If we reprogram the defense arrays to resonate at the same frequencies as... Precisely. Bridge interrupted, their patterns shifting rapidly with calculations. Your classical music combined with our crystal harmonics could create energy patterns the Dominion has never encountered. It would be beautiful, Maya finished, and absolutely devastating. The lab's main screen showed the Dominion fleet approaching, their ship's black angular shapes that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. They were the opposite of the Zrillion vessels in every way, where one celebrated complexity and beauty, the others enforced uniformity and intimidation. Dr. Patel, Rodriguez's voice came through again. Please tell me you have something. They're broadcasting their demands. Usual stuff. Surrender the Zrillions, submit to Dominion authority. Resistance is futile. James looked at Maya, then at Bridge, seeing the same determination reflected in human eyes and crystalline patterns. Colonel, please patch me through to all defense stations, and if you can, pipe back Brandenburg concertos through the auxiliary speakers. We're about to give the Dominion a lesson in human Zrillion harmony. As the music began playing through the station, Bridge's patterns synchronized with its rhythm, and Maya's quantum calculations aligned with both. James watched in awe as their hybrid defense system came online, surrounding Earth with a shield that looked more like an aurora borealis than a weapon. You know, he said to no one in particular, I always thought first contact would be more formal. Instead, we're about to defend Earth with the power of music and crystals. Maya grinned, her fingers flying over the controls. Did you expect anything less from a species that put disco records on interstellar probes? The first Dominion ships entered weapons range, their sensors probably trying to make sense of the unprecedented defense grid humanity had cobbled together in less than 3 days. James almost felt sorry for them. Almost. Ready to make history? He asked his colleagues, human and alien alike. Bridge's patterns formed what James now recognized as their battle configuration. The Dominion believes art is inefficient. Let us show them how wrong they are. As Bach's music filled the station and the defense grid hummed to life, James couldn't help but smile. Sometimes the best scientific breakthroughs came from embracing the impossible, and humanity had made that their specialty. Battle stations, everyone. Commander Sarah Lou's voice rang through the retrofitted International Space Station, now humanity's frontline defense command. Dominion fleet entering optimal firing range in 5 minutes. The massive holographic display showed Earth's combined defense force, a hastily assembled collection of experimental spacecraft, converted satellites, and Zrillion vessels, all integrated with their newly developed harmonic shield technology. Against the Dominion's vast armada, they looked like a child's toys facing that tsunami. Status report, Sarah demanded, her eyes fixed on the approaching enemy fleet. Harmonic shields at 100% capacity, Dr. Powell reported from his station. Maya's music crystal interface is stable. Bridge and their team have synchronized all Zrillion vessels with our defense grid. Lieutenant Emma Rodriguez, the colonel's daughter and Earth's best combat pilot, spoke up from her position near the tactical display. All fighter squadrons report ready. The Zrillions have finished uploading their combat protocols to our neural interfaces. It's different, Commander. Like having crystal clarity alongside human instinct. Sarah nodded, remembering her own experience with the neural interface. The Zrillions had adapted their crystalline technology to work with human consciousness, creating a hybrid system that combined human intuition with their precise calculations. It felt like having a symphony orchestra in your head, each thought a note in a larger composition. Dominion fleet is broadcasting again, Communications Officer Chen announced. They're laughing at us. Their exact words. Your primitive attempts at resistance are both futile and aesthetically displeasing. A ripple of amusement passed through the human crew members. The Zrillions, their crystalline forms integrated throughout the station's systems, pulsed with what Sarah had learned to recognize as anticipation. They still don't understand, do they? Bridge's harmonics resonated through the command center. They see your art, your music, your seemingly chaotic approach to technology as weakness. They cannot comprehend that beauty and strength are often the same thing. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Then let's give them an education they'll never forget. Emma, is your squadron ready for Operation Firefly? Emma's grin was fierce. Ready and eager, Commander. My pilots have been practicing the maneuvers Bridge designed. They're insane, impossible, and absolutely brilliant. The tactical display updated, showing the Dominion fleet moving into their standard attack formation, a rigid, geometrically perfect arrangement that would have been devastating against conventional forces. But humanity and the Zrillians were about to introduce them to a very different kind of warfare. 3 minutes to contact, Chen announced. Dominion energy readings indicating weapon systems charging. Sarah took a deep breath. Begin Operation Firefly. Emma, you have tactical command of the fighter squadrons. Dr. Patel, initiate the harmonic resonance sequence. Bridge, synchronize your people with ours. Let's show them what happens when crystal precision meets human chaos. The station's speakers came alive with music, not Bach's this time, but a new composition created jointly by human musicians and Zrillian harmonics experts. It was beautiful, impossible, and exactly what they needed to power their hybrid defense systems. Emma's voice crackled over the comm as her squadron launched. This is Firefly Leader to all pilots. Remember your training. Let the crystal guide your precision, but trust your human instincts. We're about to rewrite the rules of space combat. Sarah watched as Earth's defenders moved into position. The Zrillian vessels, their crystalline structures refracting sunlight into rainbow patterns, took up formation alongside humanity's more utilitarian craft. The contrast should have looked jarring, but instead, it seemed right. Like two parts of the same song finally coming together. 1 minute to contact, Chen reported. Dominion fleet launching fighters. Wait, they're hesitating. Their formation is showing signs of confusion. Of course they are, Bridge commented, their patterns shifting with what Sarah now recognized as satisfaction. Their tactical computers cannot predict what we're about to do. How do you calculate the trajectory of a dance? How do you predict the next note in a song you've never heard? The first waves of Dominion fighters approached, their black hulls absorbing light like hungry shadows. They moved with mechanical precision, every maneuver calculated to mathematical perfection. Emma's squadron met them head-on. Human pilots guided by Zrillian crystals, their movements a blend of calculated precision and artistic improvisation. The result was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. All units, Sarah announced, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. Commence Operation Firefly. Let's teach the Dominion why you should never underestimate species who dare to find beauty in battle. As the space around Earth erupted into what could only be described as a deadly ballet, Sarah remembered something her grandmother used to say. The most powerful forces in the universe are those that bring unlikely things together. Looking at the harmony of human and Zrillian forces moving as one, she finally understood what that meant. The Dominion was about to learn that lesson too, whether they wanted to or not. The battle for Earth unfolded like a deadly dance choreographed by forces the Dominion had never imagined possible. Emma's fighter squadrons moved through space in patterns that defied conventional tactics, their ships trailing crystalline energy that formed intricate mandalas in the void. Firefly Squadron, execute Moonlight Sonata formation, Emma commanded, her voice steady despite the impossible maneuvers she was performing. The neural interface hummed in her mind, Zrillian precision harmonizing with human instinct. Her pilots responded instantly, their ships moving in spiral patterns that somehow matched both the mathematical progression of Beethoven's composition and the crystalline resonance frequencies of their Zrillian allies. The result was devastating. Waves of hybrid energy that shredded through Dominion shields as if they were paper. This is impossible, came the frustrated broadcast from the Dominion flagship. Your tactics violate every principle of space combat. Your formations are inefficient. Your attack patterns are chaotic. That's kind of the point, Emma muttered, executing a barrel roll that shouldn't have been possible at these speeds. The crystalline technology integrated into her fighter sang in response, turning the maneuver into both an attack pattern and a thing of beauty. Back on the command station, Commander Sarah Liu watched the battle unfold with a mixture of awe and strategic satisfaction. "Status report," she called out. Dr. Patel's voice was excited despite his professional tone. "The harmonic resonance is exceeding all expectations. The Dominion's rigid shield frequencies can't adapt to our constantly changing patterns. It's like trying to stop a river with a straight wall. The water simply finds another way through." Vridge's crystalline form, pulsed with what Sarah had learned was their equivalent of fierce joy. Their fundamental error was assuming that efficiency and uniformity were the same thing. They cannot comprehend that chaos can have its own kind of order. The main tactical display showed the scale of what they'd achieved. The Dominion's perfect formation was breaking apart, their ships unable to maintain their rigid patterns in the face of attacks that came from angles their computers couldn't predict, using energy configurations their sensors couldn't properly analyze. "Dominion flagship is attempting to coordinate a counterattack," Chen reported from communications. They're trying to calculate our next moves based on standard combat algorithms." Sarah actually laughed. "Good luck with that. How do you quantify improvisation?" "Emma, initiate Phase 2. "With pleasure, Commander." Emma's voice crackled through the comm. "All squadrons, prepare for Jazz Protocol." The human pilots, their minds linked through Zrillion crystals, began moving in patterns based on the structured improvisation of jazz music. Each pilot became like a musician in an ensemble, following the basic structure of their battle plan, but free to improvise within it. The result was combat that looked more like a dance performance than a military engagement. Vridge's harmonics hummed with appreciation. "We spent millennia perfecting our crystalline technology, seeking ultimate precision. Yet it took human artists to show us that precision without creativity is merely stagnation." The Dominion fleet was in chaos now. Their rigid tactics were falling apart in the face of attacks that followed the fluid logic of music rather than the straight lines of traditional space combat. Ships designed for perfectly calculated warfare found themselves unable to cope with enemies who treated battle like a performance art. "Main Dominion force is retreating," Chen announced, disbelief and joy mixing in his voice. "Their formations are completely broken. Commander, they're actually running away." Sarah watched the massive black ships of the Dominion fleet turning to flee, their perfect order shattered by the power of human creativity combined with Zrillion precision. "Send them a message," she ordered. "Tell them." "Allow me," Bridge interrupted, their crystalline form shifting into a configuration Sarah had never seen before. The message they broadcast was a harmony of human words and Zrillion resonance. "You sought to impose order through uniformity, to achieve perfection through conformity. But the universe itself is built on the mathematics of music, the beauty of controlled chaos, the strength that comes from embracing difference rather than fearing it. Remember this defeat. Remember that you were not overcome by superior numbers or advanced technology alone, but by the power of two species who dared to find strength in their differences and beauty in their contradictions." As the Dominion fleet disappeared into faster-than-light travel, Emma's squadrons performed one final maneuver, a victory roll that turned their crystalline energy trails into a spectacular light show visible from Earth's surface. "Show-offs," Sarah said fondly, watching the display. "Perhaps," Bridge agreed, their patterns shifting to match the rhythm of the pilot's celebration. "But is not beauty itself a form of defiance? Is not joy in victory also an art?" Looking at the sight of human and Zrillion forces celebrating together, their differences harmonizing into something greater than either could have achieved alone, Sarah couldn't help but agree. They had won not despite their differences, but because of them. The Dominion had learned a lesson that would echo across the galaxy. Never underestimate those who can find beauty in battle and strength in strangeness. Earth's first interstellar war had ended not with a bang, but with a symphony. 1 year after the Battle of Earth, the observation deck of the newly constructed Harmony Station offered a view that would have seemed impossible just months ago. Earth's orbital space had transformed into a stunning blend of human and Zrillian architecture, crystalline structures interwoven with traditional space stations, creating a display that attracted observers from across the galaxy. Dr. Sarah Chen, now Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council, stood beside Bridge, watching ships arrive for the first Interstellar Arts and Sciences Symposium. The vessels represented dozens of species, many of whom had previously dismissed both humans and Zrillians as irrelevant to galactic politics. Funny how quickly perspectives can change. Sarah mused, sipping her coffee, a habit Bridge had come to recognize as a distinctly human way of punctuating important moments. A year ago, they thought we were too primitive to matter. Bridge's crystalline form shifted in what had become their equivalent of a chuckle, and they considered us too focused on aesthetics to be taken seriously. Now they come seeking to learn the power of combining beauty with function. The station's main docking bay welcomed another arrival, a massive ship that seemed to be built from living metal and light, its design clearly influenced by the human Zrillian aesthetic that had emerged since the war. The Meridians, a species known for their rigid adherence to pure functionality, had apparently decided that perhaps beauty had its uses after all. Latest reports from the border stations? Sarah asked, though she already knew the answer. No sign of the Dominion fleet, confirmed Colonel Rodriguez, joining them at the window. Our victory did more than just drive them back. It shattered their image of invincibility. Dozens of species that feared them are now seeking alliances with Earth and the Zrillian collective. Not for our military power, Bridge added, their patterns rippling with satisfaction, but for our ability to innovate, to see possibilities where others see only chaos. The observation deck speakers began playing a new composition, one of many created by the growing community of human Zrillian artists. The music blended Earth's classical traditions with Zrillian harmonics, creating something entirely new yet hauntingly familiar. The symposium opens in an hour, Rodriguez reminded them. We've got representatives from 37 species ready to learn about everything from combat jazz to crystalline architecture. Sarah nodded, watching as more ships arrived, each one a testament to how quickly the galaxy was changing. The human Zrillian victory hadn't just defeated an enemy. It had introduced a new way of thinking about progress itself. You know what the best part is, she said, turning to Bridge. The Dominion thought they were fighting a war about power. They never understood it was really about imagination. Bridge's patterns formed what Sarah had learned was their most contemplative configuration. Indeed, they sought to impose order through force. Instead, they inspired a renaissance that spans the galaxy. Look there. They gestured toward a newly arrived vessel, sleek, organic lines blending with geometric precision in a way that would have been considered heretical by traditional shipwrights. That ship was designed by a joint team of Meridian engineers and Pleiadian artists, two species that had never cooperated before, inspired by our example. The station hummed with activity as final preparations for the symposium were made. In the main hall, displays showcased everything from new forms of faster-than-light travel based on music theory to medical treatments that used crystalline harmonics to speed healing. Each innovation bore the hallmarks of human creativity merged with Zrillian precision. Commander Liu sends her regards. Rodriguez mentioned. She's busy overseeing the new Defense Force training program. Apparently, teaching combat jazz to multiple species is even more challenging than we expected. Sarah laughed. Let me guess, they keep trying to quantify it. Exactly. Emma's solution was to make them take actual dance classes first. Says you can't understand the mathematics of movement until you feel the joy of it. Bridge's patterns shifted to match the rhythm of the music playing through the station. That is perhaps our greatest victory. Not teaching others to fight as we do, but teaching them to think as we do. To see that strength can be beautiful and beauty can be strong. The observation deck's chrono display indicated it was time for the symposium's opening ceremony. As they moved to leave, Sarah paused for one last look at the scene before them. Earth glowed below, its orbital space now a testament to what could happen when different species dared to imagine a new way forward together. "You know," she said thoughtfully, "a year ago, most humans thought first contact would either be our salvation or our doom. Nobody expected it would turn us into the galaxy's art teachers." Bridges' response carried the harmonic overtones of deep satisfaction. "And none of my people expected that our salvation would come from a species that puts gardens on warships and turns battle tactics into dance moves. Perhaps that is the greatest lesson of all, that the future belongs not to those who seek to control it, but to those who dare to imagine it differently." As they headed to the ceremony, the music shifted to a new composition, one that told the story of an unlikely alliance that had changed the galaxy not through force of arms, but through the power of combined imagination. The Dominion had sought to enforce uniformity across the stars. Instead, they had inadvertently sparked a revolution of creativity that would reshape galactic civilization for generations to come. It was, Sarah thought, exactly the kind of beautiful irony that humans had always appreciated. And now, finally, the rest of the galaxy was beginning to understand why.